Happy Memorial Day weekend. This is Stephen Nelson with OEFC West. I'm joined by Tom Pecore, one of our new club coaches that's based down in Newcastle. Tom, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy Memorial Day.
Yes, indeed. This is part of our the face or the person behind the coach series. This is episode 5, I believe. Part 4 of meeting the coach. So this is one of the things that we're trying to do as a club to introduce our players and our members to our club coaches and different people on the staff. So we're going to go kind of do a deep dive interview to talk a little about Tom, the person behind the coach. So I'll just dive right into it. Tom, tell me a little bit about where you grew up at and how you got started in the game.
Well, I grew up in a military family. My dad was career Army. I was born in Germany, back then West Germany, Frankfurt U.S. Army Hospital. Spent most of my formative years in Germany. And in 1976, we came back to Carlisle, Pennsylvania, U.S. Army War College. That's where my dad was stationed. And I finished high school there, graduated in 78. I went to a little school north of Pittsburgh called Slippery Rock State College to play baseball. Met a girl, and we just celebrated a 39th wedding anniversary. Her name is Jama. 1980, the economy was tough back east, so we came out to OU. I finished up my undergraduate degree at OU and worked in the film and video industry, and then went back. I got to go see 88, 87 maybe, and started my master's and picked up a certification in secondary education. And my first teaching gig was at Western Heights.
That's awesome. The Jets, if I'm not mistaken.
Western Heights Jets, yeah.
That's right. So, well, there's a lot to unpack there. So, growing up in Germany, did you have an opportunity to play soccer while you were growing up in Germany?
I played soccer in the local leagues there, and I also played football, basketball, and baseball. But I was always around the game of soccer. My mother's German, and my mother's side of the family are huge soccer fans. And my cousin, Kurt Loth, was a tremendous player. He played in, I believe, the second division. And we used to go watch him play, and it's just always amazed me how fast and how strong and how quick he was. But soccer was always big. You know, it's such a big thing of that culture. And it's just contagious. It's really just a lot of fun to watch and be part of.
That's awesome. So, when did you first fall in love with the game? Was it while you were in Germany, or was it sometime later?
Yeah, and I tell this story. I had an aha moment. 1974, Germany was in the World Cup against Holland, and we there at in Heidelberg, where we were living, they had the German-American friendship tent, and it was just full of everybody watching these soccer games. And there was no big screen TVs in, so you had all these big TVs all around. And the thing I remember the most was when Germany scored the go-ahead goal in the final, it rained beer. Germans threw the beer up, and it just rained beer, and just the euphoria of a whole country just exploding with joy. Something that we don't see here, but it was quite an experience. And I guess from that point, I've just loved the game. And I tell students this, that when you go to Europe to watch a soccer game, it's just not a game. It's a fest. It's a celebration. There's the pre-game events, there's the game, then there's a post-game. And the Europeans have perfected the tailgate. So it's an all-day deal. And it's just the singing, the music, the chanting, the bantering back and forth. And then, of course, to watch what we call the most beautiful game at a high level is really quite a thrill.
That's awesome. Now, how old were you when that World Cup?
Well, I was 14 in that World Cup.
Okay.
and that's 14's a pretty impressionable age.
Absolutely.
So, and it stuck with me.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that your mother was German, and that soccer's obviously a big part of German culture, or modern German culture. Is there a particular team that you support?
Well, in the 70s, the big team was Bayern München out of Munich, and they still are, just really, really popular. And I liked that as a youth, but last couple of years I've gravitated toward Dortmund, and I just like the culture there. It's a blue collar part of Europe, a lot of industry, a lot of hardworking people, but what makes the Dortmund club unique is they are so efficient in developing homegrown talent, local talent, identifying young players,
Mm-hmm.
and getting them ready for to be really good. Christian Pulisic, who's an American, that's where he played, and now he's in England. But that's an example of how development is so important to that club. They raise these great players that, of course, they sell them and make a lot of money, but they're just a lot of fun to watch.
That's awesome. Cool. So outside of the World Cup, did you have any opportunities to go to any club games, or what was most?
While we were there in Germany, we had a chance to see some local clubs. Hoffenheim, which is right by Heidelberg, and Heidelberg has a pro team also, in Darmstadt and Frankfurt, and there's Mainz, which are very close. I had a chance to see several of those games before we came back in '76. So it was just a very big part of our life back then.
Absolutely. So what was the, outside of the World Cup game, what was the most memorable or impressive game that you were able to attend in person?
I watched Barcelona play Real Madrid and saw Messi score. When I went to Barcelona to the youth academy there, and it was quite, to see one of the best players to ever play the game. It was, they love him. The whole country's in love with him. Even the opponents love him, and he's just, that team, that Barcelona team, has tremendous players. But just be able to watch Messi play, for an American kid, that would be like saying, I got a chance to see Babe Ruth hit a home run.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, and that was in Barcelona. So Barcelona.
That was in Barcelona.
Their big rival, Real Madrid, in Barcelona. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So yeah, that's. I get chills just thinking about it. The possibility of that. That's awesome. So you mentioned living in Germany and then coming back to Pennsylvania, and then, if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned ending up in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. What made you make that transition from Pennsylvania to Oklahoma?
Well, I really love the Pittsburgh area. I always said if I was ever to retire to a city, that would be the city. But the economy in the 70s and the 80s with the steel mills was in the tanks. They were shutting down, and Pittsburgh went through a depression. There was no jobs. There was bread lines. It was just not a very good place economically. And so I left Slippery Rock, and back then I was paying, I think I said something earlier, $32 a credit hour, and came to OU and finished at $11 a credit hour. And since my dad was from Oklahoma, we were residents of Oklahoma. I got in-state tuition. It was just a no-brainer. And so we came here. And, being in a military family, you always think that every 2 or 3 years you're going to move. My wife went to law school here, and we just stayed, raised a family, and it's been good to us.
That's awesome. Now, were you involved in the game at that point of time, or?
No. Didn't have children. I was just busy trying to make a living and moving forward our lives. But no, we didn't have children. I didn't really get involved in the game, and I'll tell you, this is a true story. In 1988, I was at Western Heights, first-year teacher, and the athletic director, Mark Wilson, who's now in Ada, came to me and said, "Did you used to live in Germany?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, we need a soccer coach." And I go, No. no, I don't know. I can't coach the game. It's tough. There's no way. He said, no, no, no. Just stand there. We'll get a college kid and we'll pay you $400. Wow, $400, that's a lot of money. And I remind people that, back then the starting salary of a teacher was $16,000. So $400 is a lot of money. And so I just stood there and watched this, and it was chaos. There was no structure, no organization, and it drove me nuts. And all I did was put structure in and try to organize practices. And they went from, I think, winning 2 games in 3 years to we were 7-7, and we qualified for the playoffs. And I thought I was the greatest thing in the world. And it really kind of dawned on me that I really didn't know what I was doing. So I made a commitment at that time that if I'm going to coach this game, I need to learn more about it and learn how to coach it, because it is complicated. And so I became enrolled in the programs offered through the Oklahoma Soccer Association, and got on the licensing program.
Gotcha. Now, at that time, and this is something that I actually at one point they've lapsed, but I had gotten the F and the E license and was on track to get my D license, but got distracted by becoming a referee. But so how long has that licensing structure been in place? Because it seems like it's been a long time, but
for me, or just U.S. soccer in general?
Just U.S. soccer in general.
I think they started the whole licensing program in the 60s, late 60s, because they realized, the game is going to grow exponentially in this country, and they need qualified coaches. And there were so many parents involved in the youth program that they wanted to try to elevate the level of instruction for these younger kids. Now, for me, it was, based on that I had to figure out if I was doing the right thing. And so I got in contact with the Oklahoma Soccer Association, and some of the older coaches will remember this name, but his name is Gary Williamson. He was the director of education, and he was totally committed to teaching coaches how to become better coaches. And so he started a program to try to bring the high school coaches into the program. And we met once a week, and he did training sessions, and we got our E's and our F's, and eventually I got a D. A few years later, I got my national youth. I think I was number 103, 104. And then I went and got my national C. And then I audited the B course. So, I learned so much about how to teach the game, and those courses are so important. And one of the things that people like me and who've been in it for a while is we want to see younger coaches become more involved in the process of learning about the game. And my big hope is that I can establish some way in which I can work with recreational coaches and help them do a better job.
Absolutely, and that's vitally important for the development of the game in America. You see, countries like Iceland and the success they've had, and if you dig into that, the coaching education is a big part of. Well, a lot of people have the opinion that coaching education was a big part of the success that Iceland has had. If you followed what their team has done.
They're a tremendous case study, and they're a little unique. The geography doesn't allow them to really play outside much, so they had all these greenhouses and indoor facilities. Some were being used and some weren't, and they just transformed them into training centers. And we see a lot of benefits that program has gone under. It was a national commitment.
Absolutely. Love to see that sort of national commitment here in the U.S., but still kind of waiting for it. But
it's getting there.
It is. So you mentioned, kind of how you got started in the game with the high school athletic director at Western Heights. seeing an opportunity and kind of putting you in a position to succeed with coaching. At what point in that process did you know, oh, this is what I think I want to do?
I think for me, it became evident after I left Western Heights and joined another coach by the name of Jay Coleman at Norman High. And we coached the Norman High girls to a national championship or a state championship. Just seeing the profound effect the game had on these young girls just made me convinced that this is where I needed to be. And, Jay Coleman was one of the legends in the game, a great coach. And, I took my lessons from him and I went on to coach at Moore for 3 years. We had 3 10-win seasons back to back and made the playoffs 3 years in a row. Probably our biggest game at Moore High School was when they beat the number 1 Norman North, number 1 in the country at Norman North on a shootout in the first round of the playoffs. That was a lot of fun.
Shootouts are very, very stressful, but if you come out on the right side, very fun.
Yeah, I live in Norman, so it hasn't been all that well received by a lot of people in Norman, but oh well, that's the way it goes. And then from there, I went to Chickasha and worked with Jimmy Hampton, and we were in 3 state championship games. While I was there, we won 1 and lost 2 on the same day. That was tough. From there I went to Putnam City North, and I finished up my career there.
That's awesome.
And that was pretty exciting.
Now, you finished out your career, or are you not associated? I thought you were at Newcastle High School. Is that?
Well, my teaching career. I retired from teaching, but when word got out that I was retiring, the athletic director at Newcastle, who used to teach with me, called me and said, "Come on down here." And I said, No, I'm done. No, come down here. Great city, great families, great facilities. So I went down there, and it was a no-brainer. So I just coached soccer at Newcastle High School, and I'm pretty excited about that program and where it will go, because I think they're going to be very, very good.
That's awesome. Now, boys, girls?
Boys, but I help with the girls also.
Okay.
But all these years I've still done club.
Yep.
I was doing club in the 90s. We started with Celtic. I coached at Fury. We went to Edmond Soccer Club. Mm-hmm. When that thing transformed, it was myself, Jimmy Hampton, Lexi Verzeralis, and Dave Kunitz. We all went up together as a group. I stayed on the girls' side. And then when they formed the Oklahoma Football Club and merged with what Stephen Phillips is doing, I still stick with the girls. And I've been on and off with club the whole time. And then I went over to the boys' side. And I've always wanted to coach the second or the third teams because those are the kids that need most of the help.
Sure.
And I've always enjoyed that. So club has always been there.
That's awesome. So within your coaching career, who stands out as a mentor for you?
Well, off the bat, Gary Williamson in North Texas. He's now in North Texas. He's just brilliant. Just a very, very smart, motivated, teacher of the game. I love Gary, and he's the one actually put me on this road to where I am now. The second would have to be Jimmy Hampton, having coached with him both in club and high school, and coached against him at the college level, and then worked with him in the club. Just a tough competitor, a great coach, somebody that you want to match up with and you want to get after him. A lot of respect for him. He gets so much out of young people, and his X's and O's and how he motivates and moves kids around is just really phenomenal. I think Neil Cagle, also another great coach, retired coach. He gave me an opportunity to coach at Southwest Christian University 2 years, where we won 2 national championships. Another pioneer of the game. He's been at Bethany and Edmond. Just a quality man, very religious, loves the game, loves people. I admire Gordon Drummond, the Norman High coach. Again, he's another pioneer. He actually started the first high school team at Norman, and he's still coaching there. There's so many, Jay Coleman, and in the Energy Club, there's great coaches. Matt Fancher comes up, Tony Orsi, Danny Gibson. I remember when he was coaching. There's so many good coaches working now that it's just a pleasure. And I love watching them coach. Everyone is different. Everyone has a same different technique and a different way to approach the game. So, I'm very fortunate that this is the industry I'm in, to be around such great men.
That's awesome. What is probably, you mentioned, hopefully I'm not repeating myself, but I think you mentioned having a shootout in the, I think the first round of the high school playoffs.
Yeah.
What was from your coaching career, what was your most memorable game?
Well, you remember all the state championships,
Mm-hmm.
and the ones you lose hurt so bad. For me, it was 2006. We were up Jinx 4-2 with 5 minutes left to go in a game. And I had a bench of 10 players and 2 subs, and Jinx had 22 players. Every one of them could have played anyplace else. And we just ran out of gas. We were playing at UCO in a bowl in the middle of the afternoon in black jerseys. The turf was 130 degrees. It was 95 degrees outside. And we just ran out of gas. And what makes that so special is my son started on that team. He's a center mid. And we lost with 2 minutes left to go in overtime.
Oh, wow. Now was that at Wantland Stadium?
Right.
Okay, so funnily enough, I played football at Southwestern, and I remember playing in that stadium on that turf. So
it's tough. But at the end, as a coach, you always say, when the whistle blows, I want to make sure that you left it all on the field. You have no regrets. And I've coached some great teams and great players, but that team would be an example of a team that left it on the field.
That's awesome.
And that'll always be a bittersweet moment. I've never seen the game. I've got it on DVD. I can't watch it, so. Gotcha. But that was tough. And there are other good games. I remember when Brian Byers, that's a name that might jump out at you. He was with the Energy for a while, a great college player. He showed up as a freshman at PC North, and his freshman year, he only gave up 7 goals.
Oh, wow.
And we lost, and the next year we lost against Tulsa Union, 0-0 after regulation, 0-0 after double overtime, and we lost on the 8th shooter.
Oh, wow.
Penalty kicks. And
wow.
Brian was a freshman, and he was great. We knew he was going to be great.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's awesome. I obviously attend Energy games, and I remember Brian being on that squad. Obviously, I want to say behind Cody Larendi, but more than capable. And I remember a few different times when they were playing away games, watching him. I want to say the U.S. Open Cup, where he had a couple of awesome games with some just phenomenal saves. So
I'm jealous. I'm biased. I think Brian is good enough. He's a tremendous keeper. But think about keepers; they can play longer than field players do.
Absolutely.
So he has some opportunities.
Yeah, and he's now at I guess the rebranded Tulsa Roughnecks. I guess it's Tulsa FC now. I think I said that right.
It's funny because I had two goalkeepers that came through that I coached that ended up in the pros. One is Lance Parker, who graduated in 2004, went to Missouri State, played there. Then he went to the Rapids. Then he went to Chivas. And on national TV, he stuffed both Beckham and Donovan. And then he went and played in Canada for a number of years. And his injuries really basically what forced him out of the game.
Gotcha.
And then the next week, Brian. They're the best two goalkeepers that Oklahoma's ever produced. And I was fortunate enough to coach them both. I love them both.
That's awesome. Now, from a coaching perspective, who's the best player you've ever coached?
Goalkeepers, those two. Field players. Oh, there's so many. There's just so many, and each one is different. I really can't. Obviously, my son has always been my favorite, but he earned it. He was very, very good. Tony Simmons, great back. This is an example of a kid. A lot of people don't know this, but Tony was blind in one eye and probably the best lockdown defender I've ever seen. And you've got Jesse Faley could have been really good, but unfortunately for Jesse, he was hurt his senior year, so he didn't get a chance to play that much. But who knows how good he could have been. He just, he was such an explosive player and just a fierce competitor. Anthony Hernandez, another great player, made All-American as a junior and played it at Fort Hays and later went and played in Mexico. I just go down the list. There's just so many, Kevin Cabello, both Cabellos. Ricky was a great keeper. He was on that 2016. He's coaching now, but Kevin was just a monster, a man among boys. Probably the best center back I've ever coached. It's hard. Every player is different. Every player is unique. Every player brought something to the table. So probably my proudest moment as a coach is we had a boy named Stephen Lake. And when Stephen was 11, he had a brain aneurysm. And basically when he came out of his coma, multiple surgeries, he had to learn how to walk and talk again. He signed up as a manager as a ninth grader. And we saw very quickly what the stimulation of soccer did for him. And we gave him a uniform. I mean, he couldn't run 5 yards, but he could hit a ball. And, we put him in JV games and, we got a chance for him to score on a PK as a senior. We called him off the bench and he scored on a PK. And when he scored that goal, it was as big as any World Cup goal. There was tears everywhere. Both teams celebrated that. And to me, that's what soccer's about. It's that moment of joy that you can see when a kid is playing. And Steve Lake is an example of that. His team helped him recover from a brain injury. And he's now teaching in Oklahoma City in public schools, PE. But he's a great story.
That's awesome. So what advice would you give to call it younger players just entering into competitive soccer? We're about to have tryouts coming up beginning of June, and there's a lot of kids that are just transitioning from recreational or academy soccer, and what advice would you give to those players as they enter into their first tryouts?
There's a saying called fortunes favor the bold. And that means a lot. Be bold. Take a try. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Enjoy it. Tryouts should be fun. See how you match up with your peers. I really think, and I believe this, and I would say to anybody that what we offer with the OEFC West and Newcastle is the best product here in Oklahoma. I really mean that. I think our coaches are top-notch. They're professional. They will make parents satisfied with the level of instruction they're going to get. and comfortable. And for the young players, you've got to compete. Life is not easy. It's all about competition, and you have to compete. You got to compete in your work environment. You got to compete in your grades, and you have to compete with yourself. How good can you be? And that's the purpose of club. And if you are gifted and physically able and college becomes an opportunity for you, what a great way to round out your academic life. Not only be a very good club player, but also to experience what it means to be a collegiate athlete. And that in itself says a lot about you, the person, and your ability to compete and to stay on top of your grades and to deal with the demands of a rigorous schedule. So I encourage kids to do this. And for parents, what I would tell them is just relax. Don't worry about what team they're going to make. Just relax and let everything happen, because normally it all works out. And if a coach comes to you and says, I'm going to get your player, your daughter or your son, a college scholarship, that's when you need to walk away, because coaches don't do that. The player does that. All we do as coaches is provide the tablet that they can write on. We are the door to let them walk through. We facilitate their growth. And if they grow and they get better, they will find a way. But a coach can never guarantee a player a college scholarship. That's for the player to do. And that's important these parents understand that, because there's a lot of pressure on parents, and some of it's misplaced.
Gotcha. So speaking of college, you talked about the younger players, and you transitioned a little bit into the older players. What advice would you give to, say that high school sophomore or junior or senior, trying to make it at the next level? What advice would you give to them?
Well, what I tell my boys: be a gentleman, a scholar, and an athlete. Be of good moral character. Don't do stupid things that'll get you in trouble. Abstain from drugs and alcohol. Have a good moral foundation, because the quality of your character will carry you farther than anything else. Be a scholar. And this is important because very few schools offer full rides. A lot of schools try to piggyback both academics and athletics. And if you're a good student and you have a 3.4, a 3.5, you get a 23 or a 24 in your ACT, you score well, you're going to get some academic money and you become a good investment. So you must be a good student. And last but not least, the athlete. If you have goals to play at the next level, commit to training like a pro. Eat right, sleep right, work out right. Find those coaches that can push you to your limits, that can make you a better player. Otherwise, you'll never get better. And another thing, start thinking about school now. Come up with a wish list of schools that you think you might want to go to. Go to the roster. Look at the coach. Look how many upperclassmen, how many seniors, sophomores, juniors, freshmen they have. Their turnover. Look at the record. Look where they play. Look at the academic offerings. It's never too early. And write a letter. If you like John Leamy at Missouri State, write him a letter. Dear Coach Leamy, Coach Pecore said I should talk to you. I'm interested in your school to play soccer. La-da-da-da-da. A man like Coach Leamy at Missouri State will answer you back. And many of them will. So, don't hesitate to reach out to coaches. The rules make it difficult a lot of times for them to contact you, but you can contact them. So be persistent. Again, it goes back to fortune's favor the bold.
Absolutely. You mentioned Newcastle a little bit. We talked a little bit about that at the beginning. Tell me a little bit about what's going on in Newcastle.
Well, we're excited. Newcastle, we have a new club. It's called Newcastle Football Club. Basically, it took the place of another club called Tri-City that moved out of Newcastle. And so the parents in Newcastle were concerned there wouldn't be a club supporting their kids in Newcastle. So a group of parents came together and formed this. It's a rec club. It's part of the Newcastle All Sports Athletics Association. The city's behind it. There's a great group of parents, and they're they want to do a good job, deliver a good product in the rec program. On the club side, we started, it was Energy South, Newcastle, last year because parents approached me and said that they want a club in their community. They're not happy with what's happening in a club that's next to Newcastle. They want something based in Newcastle. They don't want to drive to Edmond. And so we had a parent meeting 2 weekends, and the response was overwhelming. So I got with Coach Hampton, and we put together the Energy South. And we have, last year we had an 09 boys team, an 05 team, an 04, and an 02, 03 mixed team. And they all competed and had very good seasons. And so with the emergence of the Newcastle Football Club, the competitive side is going to be attached to that. There will be an academy program, which we're excited about because Mitch Sowerby, who's the men's coach at MacU, will be running that. So we're looking for good things to happen. And it wasn't that Tri-City wasn't doing a good job. They did an okay job at rec, but they topped out at an age and there was nothing offered for the kids that wanted to compete at a higher level after about, I think, 12 or 13. So we offered that in the club side. And so we're excited. We think that this year our teams will double. And at the rate we're going, we're going to continue to grow.
That's awesome. And that's one of the things that obviously, entering into a partnership with West and with the other recreational clubs that West represents and the Mustang Youth Soccer Association and Yukon Soccer Club, we're all really excited about the opportunities of partnering together with Newcastle and everybody that was formerly associated with South.
Well, together we're stronger.
Absolutely.
And the West organization is tremendous. The coaches are quality. I think they complement what we want to do, and I think we can complement what they want to do. It gives more kids more opportunities to play.
Absolutely, and it's about getting kids on the field. So
absolutely.
So speaking of that, what teams are you planning on coaching next year?
Well, right now I'm down for the 09 boys and
Okay.
the 08 boys, 07, 08 boys. We're going to have 10 girls, 10 boys team. Looks like we're going to have an 07, 08 team. Fives look to be very good. The 04s are one of the better teams in the state, very solid. I think they're an excellent team. And our senior team, our 02s and 03s, they just get better every time they play on the field. And they got a lot of great players who can do some good things. So, we've got Coach Sowerby coaching the older boys. I'm coaching the younger people. We've got Etzel Gonzalez coaching girls. Jose Alvarez coaching younger boys. We've got a very good cadre of coaches that we think they can offer the parents a good product and make them feel good about what their kids are doing.
That's awesome. Well, Coach Pecore, really glad that I had the opportunity to spend time with you on a Memorial Day weekend and get to know you a little bit better. Really excited for the direction that we're going as a club and having you and Newcastle as a part of that. Any final words for our club members?
Everybody in club, we've come through a very different time in our country's history. Be patient, be committed, do the things you can do at home or in small groups. But we're going to be back on the field. We are in numbers, and be thankful you have coaches that were committed over this quarantine period to visit with you on a weekly basis through Zoom, to do training sessions, and to stay in contact, because it reflects on them that they care about you. And for the parents, remember this: we coach because we love the game, but also we coach because we love these kids. And love is a very important aspect of coaching. You have to love what you do. And I am proud to be associated with this great group of coaches. And I think, Stephen, you may correct me, I think I'm one of the older ones.
I think you might be right.
Oh, man. I thought Brian Harvey was old, but he just retired. But these young coaches are committed to their craft. They're committed to education, of becoming better coaches. And the parents need to support them every step of the way. Because, again, together we are stronger.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Tom. Look forward to seeing you on the field and at tryouts. And again, just a reminder, tryouts are June 6th with pre-camp at June 4th and 5th, all of those at Taylor Park in Yukon. Again, thank you for your time, Coach Pecore. And again, look forward to seeing you on the fields.
Goodbye, Steve. Thank you.